Hello, welcome to Biology, the scientific study of life. Paracrine signaling by local regulators. Before continuing our discussion of the endocrine system and hormonal regulation, let us briefly consider local regulators. In contrast to long-distance endocrine signaling by hormones, local regulators convey messages between neighboring cells. A process referred to as paracrine signaling. When secreted by the cells that make them local regulators act on nearby target cells within seconds or even milliseconds, eliciting cell responses more quickly than hormones can. Some local regulators have cell surface receptors, others have intracellular receptors. Binding of local regulators to their specific receptors triggers events within target cells similar to those elicited by hormones. Several types of chemical compounds function as local regulators. Many neurotransmitters, the key local regulators in the nervous system, are amino acid derivatives. Among peptide protein local regulators are cytokines, which play a role in immune responses, and mast growth factors, which stimulate cell proliferation and differentiation. Growth factors must be present in the extracellular environments in order for many types of cells to grow, divide, and development normally. The functions of various growth factors in regulating cell division and tissue development are described in other chapters. Another important local regulator is the gas nitric oxide, NO short term. When the blood oxygen level falls, endothelial cells in the blood vessel wall synthesize and release NO. Nitric oxide activates an enzyme that relaxes the neighboring smooth muscle cells, which in turn dilates the vessels and improves blood flow to tissues. Nitric oxide also plays a role in male sexual function by increasing blood flow into the penis and producing an erection. Highly reactive and potentially toxic, NO usually triggers changes in a target cell within a few seconds of contact and then breaks down. The drug Viagra, sildenafil citrate treatment for male erectile dysfunction sustains an erection by interfering with this breakdown of NO. Nitric oxide has other functions as well. In the nervous system, it can function as a neurotransmitter, and NO secreted by certain white blood cells can kill bacteria and cancer cells in body fluids. A group of local regulators called prostaglandins, PGS, are modified fatty acids often derived from lipids in the plasma membrane. They are so named because they were first discovered in prostate gland secretions that contributes to semen released from most types of cells into interstitial fluid. Prostaglandins regulate nearby cells in various ways depending on the tissue and semen that reaches the reproductive tract of a female. Prostaglandins stimulate smooth muscles of the females uterine wall to contract, helping sperm reach an egg. During childbirth, prostaglandins secreted by cells of the female's placenta cause the nearby muscles of the uterus to become more excitable, helping to induce labor. Notice this figure. In the immune system, various prostaglandins help induce fever and inflammation and also intensify the sensation of pain. These responses contribute to the body's defense by sounding an alarm that something harmful is occurring. The anti-inflammatory effects of aspirin and ibuprofen are due to the drugs inhibition of prostaglandin synthesis. Prostaglandins also help regulate the aggregation of platelets, an early step in the formation of blood clots. This is why some physicians recommend that people who are at risk for a heart attack take aspirin on a regular basis. In the respiratory system, two prostaglandins with very similar molecular structures have opposite effects on the smooth muscle cells in the walls of blood vessels serving the lungs. Prostaglandin E signals the muscle cells to relax, which dilates the blood vessels and promotes oxygenation of the blood. Prostaglandin F signals the muscle cells to contract, which constricts the vessels and reduces the blood flow through the lungs. Shifts in the relative concentrations of these two antagonistic opposing signals help maintain homeostasis in changing circumstances. The hypothalamus and pituitary integrate many functions of the vertebrate endocrine system. So far, we have looked at the basic components of hormonal regulatory pathways and how a hormonal signal is converted to a cellular response. Now we turn to the physiological effects of the primary vertebrate hormone and the role of the endocrine system in adjusting the body's activities to shifting environmental and developmental conditions. We begin with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, which control much of the endocrine system. As we read, we may want to refer to this table, which summarizes the actions of major human hormones and which illustrates the major endocrine glands in the human body. Small reference diagrams accompanying each section of the text. We will recall each gland's location. Let's start with hypothalamus. Hormones released from the posterior pituitary hormones that regulate the anterior pituitary. This is the chemical class and representative actions. Another pituitary gland, posterior pituitary, release neurohormones made in hypothalamus. The hormone oxytocin, antidiuretic hormone ADH, and chemical class peptide growth hormone GH, protein, anterior pituitary prolactin PRS, the chemical class protein, follicle stimulating and hormones FSH, luteinizing hormone LH, thyroid stimulating hormone TSH, and adrenocorticotropic peptide, glycoprotein and glycoprotein, and the presentative action stimulates contractions of uterus and mammary gland cells, promote retention of water by kidneys, stimulate growth, especially bones, and metabolic function, stimulate milk production and secretion, stimulates production of ova and sperm, stimulates ovaries and testes, stimulates thyroid gland, stimulates adrenal cortex to secrete glucocorticoids, and regulated by nervous system, water balance, hypothalamic hormones, and so on. Thyroid gland, triiodothyronine T3, chemical amine, representative that stimulate and maintain metabolic process, and calcitonin peptide, lower blood calcium level and calcium in blood. Parathyroid glands, parathyroid hormone PTH peptide raises blood calcium level and calcium in blood. Pancreas, insulin, glucagon, and protein, lower blood glucose level and raises blood glucose level, glucose in blood. Adrenal glands, adrenal medulla, epinephrine and non-epinephrine amino raise blood glucose level, increase metabolic activities, constrict certain blood vessels, raise blood glucose level, and promote reabsorption of N positive and excretion of calcium, K positive in kidney. So glucocorticoids, steroid, and glucocorticoids, steroid, gonads, testes, and ovaries, androgens, steroids, and estrogen, steroid, and progesterone, steroid. The function or representative actions support sperm formation, promote development and maintenance of male secondary sex characteristics, stimulate uterine lining growth, promote development and maintenance of female secondary sex characteristics, promotes uterine lining growth. And pineal gland, melatonin amine, and involved in biological thymus light dark cycles.